Do-do-do, do-do-do. I think this is working. I say I think this is working. I always say I think this is working, despite the fact that I've been doing this like on a fairly regular basis now. You would think that I would know how to get this thing to work. I suppose the correct thing to do is just say, "Hello, 'tis me." It is. Hello. You alright, Baz? How's things, mate? All set for Christmas, Paul? Not. Well, actually, yeah. Actually, yeah. Pretty set. Um, Not much really going on, to be honest. Actually, there's a fair bit going on, but like, what's this hair of mine? It's getting worse, I swear. Yeah, things are things are all right. Christmas is all set and ready to go. I just need to do some wrapping, which is obviously the worst part of Christmas. Trying to wrap everything. I'm still waiting on a couple of presents arriving, but I'm not too worried about that. Ordered in good time. They should be here. Everything should be grand. So yeah, it's just a case of waiting for Christmas now, I guess. Waiting for the big day to actually arrive. What about yourselves? All good on the Christmas front? The dog is clearly excited behind me. Nearly. Well, Baz, you just 3D print all of your presents. It's fine. Like, I do apologize as well. I did. I did forget in the last video to show the quality gift you gave me. That's because it's hanging up. So it wasn't something that I easily like grabbed hold of. Good evening. Not even started Christmas shopping. Oh my god. Need to hurry up because what with all of the postal strikes and train strikes and just strikes, trying to even find a place that's going to be able to deliver on time. Otherwise, you actually have to go out and actually go to shops. And why would you? Why would you want to do that? Baz, what's this picture you've just sent me? It's a helmet of some description. I go pick up last presents tomorrow, and then I've got to wrap everything. Yeah, wrapping's the key thing. That's the bane of existence. Trying to get that wrapping done. Thor. Right. Okay. See, it's Marvel, so. Actually, having said that, I say it's Marvel and but I've been replaying because tis the season. I've been replaying Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS5, and have recently rewatched Enter the Spider-Verse, which is the first time that I've rewatched it like in I don't know. Well, actually, I do know. I haven't watched that movie since I saw it at the cinema. And I must admit, I don't remember watching it at the cinema and coming out thinking it was as good as I actually thought it was the second time around. I thought it was a good film, but I've been going through a bit of a Spider-Man kick lately, and like making some discoveries. Like, for example, that original Spider-Man movie, the first one, it's not. It hasn't held up very well. It hasn't. There's an awful lot of it that just feels of its time, let's put it that way. Like weird things, like the fact that there's a joke in there about him not being Superman. It looks like, you know, there wasn't a great deal of budget put into it. And I'm going to say this now, and I've always said this, I've always maintained this, is that now I'm completely flagging on the actor's name. The dude, all I can think of is Tom Holland, and it's not Tom Holland. Come on, remind me, the original guy who played Spider-Man. Come on, what's his name? Anyway, him, the original guy who played Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire, thank you. I was thinking to myself, there's an M in there somewhere. I always thought Tobey Maguire just didn't have the natural wit and charm that Spider-Man possesses. And yeah, so going back to it, like, it's kind of hard to watch, I've got to admit. I haven't rewatched Spider-Man 2, which is obviously the one that is still loaded. You know, Spider-Man 2 is incredible and things like that. But I haven't gone back to it because I'm kind of a bit like, let's see. Obviously, I know they're still in the swing of it, but it very much feels like a superhero movie of its time. But it doesn't have like the timeless quality or the charm, I think, of say something like a like a Superman 1, like Chris Reeves Superman, or a Michael Keaton Batman. And I think the reason for that is because, you know, the Chris Reeves Superman movies are so old at this point, you know, 50 years old now. Well, coming up to 50 years old. That they're almost of like a different era, you know. And the Tim Burton's original Batman movies, they're so visually distinct, whereas I just kind of feel like Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man is just kind of like not. Anyway, that's a long way round of saying that I rewatched Enter the Spider-Verse, and I loved it. Mind you, having said that, though, from the video game, which I've been replaying, which I've mentioned, and watching Enter the Spider-Verse, I really like Miles Morales. Like, I think he's a great character. Having said that, I've never like read a comic book with him in it where I've actually enjoyed him. It's kind of weird. He's a comic book character who almost has been done infinitely better outside of the confines of the medium that he was invented for. Oh, wow, lots of comments. I really wasn't a fan of the animated style of Enter the Spider-Verse, just personal taste. You know, it's kind of weird. I thought it would be... I thought it was a lot choppier. Like, you remember how they moved the frame rate down? So the frame rate was what, like, I don't know, like, I don't exactly know how they achieved the effect, but rewatching it, I was kind of like, have they changed the rate at which the animation plays out? Because it felt a lot smoother. And I agree with you. I think I was on the fence coming out of that movie going, I don't like the choppiness of it. But I didn't find that with the rewatch, and I genuinely found myself like laughing out loud at times. I do think that it kind of loses a little bit of steam in the third act. You know, because it starts just introducing all these like weird versions of Spider-Man for the sake of introducing them. They don't really add anything to the plot. If it had just been Spider-Man and Miles Morales, you know, it would have just been served there. But they were great comedy relief. So yeah, I am with you. At least I thought I was, but I didn't find it to be too much of a problem. Definitely of its time, yeah. And unfortunately, like I say, I don't think it's going to have that timeless quality that I think a lot of earlier superhero movies have. I'd be interested to go back to the original X-Men movies and see whether or not they hold up. I don't hold the X-Men in a great high regard in regards to like my love of them as characters. I think they've got an excellent rogues gallery. The X-Men themselves I don't really care about. So it would be interesting to go back to those and see how I feel with it. And again, I'm kind of a bit I'm kind of a bit worried about going back to Spider-Man 2 and seeing how that holds up. But it's kind of weird. Like, I still think we're missing the definitive Spider-Man movie. I don't think we've actually had it yet. I think, for my money, the Tobey Maguire movies are the best representation of Spider-Man committed to film, but with a poor Spider-Man. Aunt May and Mary Jane, I think they were all handled really well. I just think Tobey Maguire was the wrong choice. And let's be honest, like, that movie suffers from the Marvel villain problem right from the get-go. I mean, Green Goblin is nothing in that movie. You know, there's nothing to him at all. So I suppose he started a trend for Marvel movies there, you know. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And then obviously from there we get The Amazing Spider-Man, which I liked the first one. I've still never seen the second one. It was apparently so dreadful. But as much as I probably get flack for this, I don't rate the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I don't think they're Spider-Man movies where Spider-Man is the supporting character in his own movie, despite being the main guy in it. Like, he's overshadowed all of the time in both of his movies. And I don't like that. And I don't like the reinterpretation of essential characters within the Spider-Man mythos for legal reasons. So we're still waiting, I feel like. I still think we're waiting on that definitive Spider-Man movie. Will we ever get it? Well, unlikely, because of this whole Sony-Disney thing. And that's a shame, really. Like, you know, if I was to turn around to somebody and say, somebody was to say, like, oh, what's, like, the best Spider-Man thing, like, outside of comics, I'd probably say, like, go play the Insomniac game. You know, it's not ideal, but the characters are right and they're there. But it is what it is. There are just some characters who we've just never had the definitive version of, you know. But one big plus for Spider-Man was Randy Savage. Absolutely. Though I did hear that now that when they put it out on TV now, they take out the "Did your husband make it for you" gag. I did watch that, and yeah, you know, like, it's of its time. It is what it is, you know. But it was one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that joke was in there. Yeah, whoops. The frame is slower at the start of the movie, but as Miles gets better, the frames get faster and smoother, like his powers. Oh, really? Huh. I did not know that. I don't ever remember thinking that, but maybe that's the whole point. I'd have to go back and watch it. X-Men 3, that bloody bridge scene in the X-Men equivalent of Bumblebee versus Barricade. X-Men 3. You know what? The only thing that I can remember about X-Men 3 is Jean! As Professor X gets nuked. That's literally it. Oh, and I'm the Juggernaut bitch, you know, because of course he is. Yeah, like, you know, this is going to be like one of those horrible things where, like, I'm probably going to go, like, back to the X-Men movies, you know, and again, X-Men 2 is lauded as, like, the great X-Men movie. But I'm probably going to go back and, like, rewatch them and go, well, they sucked, but X-Men 3 was fun. Like, probably some horrendous situation like that. Like, I'm not even going to subject myself to Spider-Man 3. Like, put it this way, there is no world. I don't care what the situation is. There should be no reality where Sandman is the main villain of a Spider-Man movie. Like, Spider-Man has arguably, I mean, in my mind, he's got the third greatest rogues gallery in comics. To a lot of people's minds, he's either got the first or the second. But Sandman does not factor into that conversation, And even Venom, to a degree. Like, I know the studio, the story was the studio wanted Venom in, and Sam Raimi didn't want Venom in, so that's why Venom is, like, shoehorned in. But, to shoehorn him in such a way that he's just wasted, is, I think, the wrong way to have gone. But then again, Sandman should never have been the villain. I mean, we went from Green Goblin to Doc Ock, so we had, like, the two big Spider-Man villains, didn't we? But, I mean, I'm just thinking about, like, who else you could have had, like, over Sandman. Like, Kraven, I think you could have easily done, like, Mysterio. You could have, like, there's so many. I think it's purely just the visual of Sandman was the reason that Sandman was chosen, like, for that third Spider-Man movie. It is what it is, I suppose. Would you like to see The Amazing Spider-Man 3 being made? You know what? Like I say, I've not seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I've just heard it's dreadful and I never watched it and things like that. However, in the last Spider-Man movie, when obviously all the Spider-Men came together, I was very much of the opinion that Andrew Garfield is the best of the three. He's just got, like, a natural charisma to him that I think the other two lack. It's perhaps not very Spider-Man. Sorry, I don't know what my hair is doing. Ignore it. He's perhaps not, like, very, like, Spider-Man geek, but I like Andrew Garfield. I think he's a great, talented actor. And I would like to see him back. There was a lot of rumours and stuff like that floating around. I think these were true. You read so much rubbish on the internet. But I'd read at some point that they were working on an Amazing Spider-Man 3 where it turned out that Venom, but the current Venom in the movies, was actually part of Andrew Garfield's universe. I don't know how true that is. I hope not, because the way they have done Venom in those Sony movies were great for those movies. I say they were great for those movies. The second movie was dreadful. The first movie was tolerable. But it's not the Venom that I want, on screen. It's the Venom that you need to have when you're making a standalone Venom movie, when you shouldn't be. Yes, you could do that by all means after you've introduced him in a Spider-Man movie, but there is the problem when Marvel sells off the rights, and I don't think Disney, even with all of their money and might, are going to be able to buy Sony. Who knows? And nor would I want them to be honest. That would be a terrifying notion, but yeah. I would like to see Andrew Garfield back. I'd rather see a new Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie than anybody else. End of discussion. But like I say, yeah, I still think we're still chasing that perfect Spider-Man movie. But like, the interesting thing with the perfect Spider-Man movie is that a lot of Spider-Man requires good setup. It's an interesting one. As to whether or not we would ever see it, I've no idea. I've always thought there was a Did your mummy make that for you? Oops. No, no, no. You would think that would be a lot easier, but no. It's did your husband make it for you? It is very much a homophobic slur that Spider-Man drops on Macho Man. It's of its time. I thought that as well. I thought it was did your mummy make that for you? But it's not. Um, the only real good X-Men movie was Days of Futures Past. You know what? Like those latter X-Men movies, how many was there? Was there 3 or 4? There was First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse. Was that it? I feel like there was another one. I can't remember any of them. I can't remember what happens. I can't remember which characters are in there. I cannot remember jack all other than Apocalypse was horrendous. Like, I think that movie, because I remember Days of Futures Past and I remember enjoying it. Like I have weird glimpses and flashbacks of Days of Future Past. You know, Wolverine like lying on the slab and time travel shenanigans and stuff like that, and Magneto saving the day. Like I have weird recollections of that movie. First Class, couldn't tell you anything. Apocalypse, I hated it. Hated it, hated it, hated it, purely because Apocalypse is, look, kid of the 80s, grew up on the X-Men animated series. Apocalypse was the boy. Like, Apocalypse was just, whenever Apocalypse showed up in an episode, it was awesome. As what I'm saying earlier, X-Men has a much better rogues gallery than a hero gallery. Apocalypse, Juggernaut, Mr. Sinister, like all of these characters, I love them. I think they're great characters. Magneto. Like, Magneto is arguably on the Mount Rushmore of villains. Like, you know, he's probably the only, you know me, big DC guy. Like, DC is my jam, my team. Even on my Mount Rushmore of comic book villains, which would predominantly be DC villains, I would probably make room for Magneto. Like, that's how good Magneto is. You know, I can't even remember what the point of this was. Sir Ian McKellen was a great Magneto, I thought. We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter. I think the problem that I've got, yeah, Apocalypse. Apocalypse of the cartoon, incredible. Apocalypse of the movie, get out of town. Like, go away. I want no part of it. Yeah. Kingpin would have been a great choice over Sandman. Kingpin, again, another character that I adore. I think Kingpin could have been perfect. Again, another one where his cartoon adaptation is so perfect. But we'll see. It's Mr. Joe Powell. Hello, sir. How you doing? In terms of Apocalypse, I envy you for not remembering it. God-awful movie. See, I just remember hating it. Like, that's it. It's kind of weird because, like, with First Class and stuff, don't remember a damn thing about it. Couldn't tell you if I liked it or I didn't like it. Was there a scene on a helipad? I think, but that could be Deadpool. Like, wait a minute, hold on a minute. When did Deadpool show up? That was in the Wolverine, wasn't it? The first Wolverine film, I think. Yeah. Like the Dragon Ball figures. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, my little Dragon Ball, like, collection. First Class had a First Class soundtrack. I see what you did there. Couldn't tell you anything about it, though. Would you like to see a complete reboot of the DC movie starting from scratch or build up like Marvel did with the MCU, or James Gunn using existing actors, which it appears he will? Oh, yes, because obviously there's the news, isn't there? There was, what was it? There was a report from, was it The Hollywood Reporter? Came out and was like, everything's cancelled, like, reboot, all of that stuff. And then James Gunn, like, put a tweet out, was it yesterday, just going, yes, no, and maybe. Like, you know, what would I prefer? I don't know. Um, I am genuinely tired of superhero movies. Like Black Adam, The Rock. Black Adam, big DC character that I'm a particular fan of. Didn't go see it. Still haven't seen it yet. Will wait till it comes out and I will buy it and I will watch it then. Just couldn't, like, there was no impetus for me to go see it. You know, it's got the JSA and it's got Dr. Fate. I love Dr. Fate. And it's played by Pierce Brosnan, my James Bond. Like, everything seemed to line up. Nah. The last superhero movie that I watched, actually not watched because that's a lie, because I just recently rewatched Man of Steel. It's okay. It just has really bad editing and choppiness, and yeah, like that should have been done as a 3-act movie. Instead, it's all over the place, and it's the. So I'm not going to say the last superhero movie that I watched, but the last superhero movie that I went to see at the cinema was. I can't remember. Like, I genuinely can't remember the last superhero movie that I went to see at the cinema. Because Marvel is in this phase of pointlessness at the minute, I feel. Like, I don't care. I'm not interested in watching 6 parts of a B-tier superhero on your TV. I don't care about the B and C tier characters that you're making movies out of. I'm not interested. DC, The Batman. I think The Batman was the last DC movie that I went to see at the cinema. I could be wrong. When did The Suicide Squad came out? It was one of the two. The Suicide Squad is a great movie, has a bad third act. The Batman, I thought was great in the cinema. I went to watch it at home. It was impenetrable. I just couldn't get through it. Everybody talks really slowly. And the movie drags. Alfred. Bruce. Ugh. I then rewatched it a little while ago, like a week ago, and I got through it, and I thought it was better. But I'm not going to lie, it's not a great movie. Like, I don't enjoy it. Like, I would not go, I fancy watching The Batman. I haven't seen The Batman in ages. No. Like, I think there are, like, movies. I think there are great movies that you only watch, like, once every 5 years or something. Like, for me, that is something like Jurassic Park. Or something like that. It's a movie that is incredible, but I'll only watch it once every 5 years. Then there are movies that I think, you know, it's a one and done. You never need to see that ever again. And I don't know where The Batman falls. Like, I don't know if in 5 years' time I will rewatch The Batman. I'd probably rewatch it when the sequel's coming out, but it's a slog. And I'm totally off track here because the question was, do I want a reboot of the DC universe? And the truth is, I don't know. I just want somebody competent. And I'm not saying Zack Snyder wasn't competent. I think Zack Snyder had a vision and, like, fair play to him in regards to that vision. I just think that the politicking was the thing that derailed it. And perhaps, rightly so, they were not movies that were mainstream. So I want somebody to do something where we can get some consistency in it. That's all. The only concern that I have is that James Gunn movies are James Gunn movies, and I don't necessarily think they're a perfect fit. They're a good fit for the Suicide Squad. I just hope he picks the right people for, like, the other movies. As for the casts, I mean, let's be honest, Henry Cavill is kind of the one that we need to talk about, isn't he? I would like to see Cavill given a Superman movie where Superman is the big blue Boy Scout. I would like to see what he does with that. I want to see whether or not he can goof around as Clark Kent. I don't think he can, but we'd have to wait and see. I don't want Ezra Miller back. I don't. I as much as I want to see that Flash movie, only because I want to see Michael Keaton back as Batman. I don't want him anywhere near it. Sorry, I do apologize. I don't want them anywhere near it. I think they're a danger to themselves and people around them, and they need help. So I think that's a no. Gal Gadot, I think, is wonderful as Wonder Woman. But that second movie, that Wonder Woman 1984, was no. And the fact that they're saying, like, oh, Patty Jenkins is, like, being told Wonder Woman 3. Yeah, it shouldn't be helmed by Patty Jenkins, because that second movie, the one where she had more control, was dreadful. Just saying. First one, great movie. Love it. Great superhero movie. So yeah, I don't know what I want. I just want... I just want somebody to put out a DC movie where the story going into it is this a good movie or not? You know. Henry Jackman always has top tier theme for his movie scores. I'm assuming that's to do with the X-Men. Is Magneto a hero or villain? He's a villain. There's no question about it. He's definitely a villain. I mean, in the comic books, yes, he's like the X-Men, all of that stuff, da-da-da-da-da. But if you had to pick an alignment for him, he is definitely a villain. He is just the most sympathetic villain that you can muster. He's also a villain which I have questions over. Like, I think Marvel is in a very unique, very awkward place at the minute. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think actually I might have talked about this before, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Marvel needs to reboot its comic book universe. Just as a thought. Definitely feeling the super fatigue, but I think whatever Gunn does with DC will be solid. Hope it'll be enough to get me on board with the franchise, because I'd like to be invested in it again. I think they've got an awful lot to try and figure out. Like, you know, because as much as they need to sort out the DC universe, they also need to sort out what they're actually going to be doing with all of these films that are already in development. The Flash, Aquaman 2. You can't put those movies out. What is my dog doing? You can't put those movies out and then go, oh, and we're restarting the universe. But you also can't say that we're focusing on a specific universe and everything's going to matter when you're putting out Joker 2 and The Batman 2, like, which aren't connected to your main universe. They're in a real tough spot. Like, something has to give. And I don't know what it is. And I guess the question is like, does a shared universe matter? In a world where a Justice League movie already exists, and we have seen that, do you need another one? Because that's what a shared universe is about, isn't it? And, you know, going back to what I was saying about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, the biggest problem that those Spider-Man movies have is that they exist in a shared universe. And all of the baggage from that shared universe drags those movies down. Is that a good thing? No, I don't think it is. Marvel is the only movie studio production company thing that has managed to succeed in this shared universe business. DC has had some success, but not much. The horror movie universe that they were going to do got one movie. It got The Mummy. Star Wars can't do it. When Star Wars can't do it, do we just chalk it up as an anomaly? Like, Marvel is the weird exception. However, the problem is Marvel is the most, successful movie franchise of all time, and therefore everybody wants a piece, don't they? I think we're going to see an influx of video game-inspired TV shows and films like the Super Mario movie, and what I'm looking forward to, The Last of Us. Yeah, I'm not bothered about The Last of Us TV. I quite like the look of the Mario movie. I think it looks really good, and Illumination Pictures is obviously fantastic. What I always think, though, is when I'm looking at the Mario movie, I'm thinking to myself, I want a Zelda movie. I want to know what, a Zelda movie looks like. Because the lore of the Zelda games is, really good. Incidentally, as well, are we... we're only, a few days away from, the worst movie bombing of all time, right? Because, correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong here. Tell me if you think differently. But Avatar 2 is going to bomb hard, right? Exceptionally hard. Nobody actually cares about Avatar, do they? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I think the last movie I saw at the cinema was Sonic 2, because cost of living and all of that. Yeah, well, I mean, there's that as well. I saw Sonic 2. I really liked Sonic 2. I think it's Idris Elba's best work. As somebody who's not a particular fan of Idris Elba. I did like him in the Suicide Squad. But, yeah, I thought Sonic 2 was great, but I love the Sonic movies just because it's 90s Jim Carrey, and I'm all for that. I enjoyed Moon Knight. Dude's got multiple personalities, right? I think that's about all I know about Moon Knight. Certainly better than She-Hulk. I heard that was dreadful. There was some twerking in it. Cavill needs another Superman movie for sure. Don't need the backstory like with Spidey. Just soft reboot the universe so Man of Steel 2 doesn't have to fit in one continuity. I think that's a good idea. Just bring him back. Do Brainiac, because it's the obvious one. And yeah, just get on with it. Make a Superman movie where he feels like Superman. Here's the thing that I don't want to hear. All right? And I said this all the way back when the Batman was coming out. I never want to hear the words superhero and grounded. Because when Christopher Nolan did his Batman movies, it was it's a grounded take on Batman. And then when Matt Reeves did his, it's it's a grounded take. And it's right, okay, how much further into the ground do you want to take Batman? Batman's probably the greatest fictional character ever devised because of how flexible he can be. Because of how you can twist and turn him, the fact that you can have a Lego Batman, you can have the 66 Batman, you can have all of these different versions of Batman, and they all work on one level or another. But, the reason that I will probably always say, as much as, the body count might disagree with it, Ben Affleck's the best Batman. Because he's prime Batman. He's Batman who doesn't need to be grounded. He was just Batman. He was cool as Batman. This whole thing of ground the character and let's really get to... No! Like, no! These are characters that are larger than life. Do not ground them. That's what I would say. So make it bombastic, make it huge, make it operatic, you know. Do something with it. That's what I think. Anyway, that's the way I would do it. But animated Zelda or live action, I would go with animated. Just because I think live action Zelda, I don't know, like it's gotta be dark, but dark in a kiddie way. And I don't think you can necessarily do that in live action to any great degree. So yeah, I would do it. I would do it as an animation movie. While we're at it, I hope Warner Brothers with Superman they don't use the bloody Williams theme again. I mean, I love that theme. Like that theme is, you know. I mean, no, I think I like the Man of Steel score. I think it's good, but it builds and it rises and it crescendos in a really good way. But yeah, like let's move on. We can do that. I think we can do that. Make it feel like a hand me down from an older brother, less special. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. But, you know, at the same time, if you think about scores, you know, you don't necessarily think about Christopher Nolan's Batman movies or The Batman or anything like that. You think dum 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 da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum dum dum. You know, you think about Tim Burton's Batman and stuff, The March and stuff, and you know, there's something to be said, I think, for those. But yeah, let's leave those themes in the past and leave that to YouTube content creators who want to create, like Henry Cavill with Christopher Reeve music and stuff like that. Did you see the new Transformers game trailer? Yes, I did. That's interesting. Yeah, I suppose we should talk about Transformers at some point. It didn't excite me, but I guess, what would I say? It's going to be like I think they've come out and said it's going to be a multiplayer kind of game, and I'm not interested in that. Like, I want a third-person action game, and it looks like it's going to be first-person. We'll see. You know, there was a lot of cool stuff at the Game Awards last night, and that Transformers trailer really didn't do anything. Release, you know, you do your Transformers teaser trailer and don't have a single Transformer. I mean, it had Bumblebee's hand in it. So I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's clearly very early in development. So we'll wait and see, you know. It's not being made by some crappy studio either. Like, it's being made by a competent developer. So I guess we'll wait and see. But, you know, when compared with all of the other games that were on display at the Game Awards, yeah, I mean, I keep forgetting it exists, to be honest. Affleck was the bomb as Batman, especially his fighting style and use of gadgets. Yeah, exactly. Like, do you know when people talk about like favorite Batman, and when I inevitably have to explain like why Affleck is like my favorite Batman on screen, like, I don't know what me dog is doing, so please ignore the rustling. I think she's looking for something. Here's what I would say in regards to... What are you doing? What? Evie, what are you... Never mind. Here's what I would say, right? Like, the two scenes that I always think about whenever I think of Ben Affleck's Batman, right, is the first Suicide Squad movie. It's a dreadful movie. I will attest to that, right? But the shot when they're in the car chase and Batman's chasing after the Joker and the Joker goes into the river, and as the car goes in, Batman ejects out of the Batmobile, spreads his cape out, at the same time puts like a rebreather in, and then slams into the water. That's just like, that's what Batman would do. And then the other one is in Batman v Superman when they're fighting Doomsday at the end, and Batman's like on the edge of the building, and Doomsday goes to hit him with his heat vision, and he just pulls his grapple out, turns, fires, and like swings away. You're just like, yeah, that's what Batman does. Like, you know, it's like that. It visually, that it's just Batman. It's right. As opposed to, you know, the Batman when he escapes out of the police station and he gets on top of the building and he goes, heights! And then, like, wingsuit. It's like, no, just jump off. Like, jump off and, like, nosedive, like, 100 feet and then escape. I don't care about the fact that it would rip your arm out of your shoulder. Like, I don't care about that, because you're a comic book character. Also, as well, like, the conversation he has with Alfred, you know, where he says, like, even if there is a 1% chance that he could destroy the entire human race, we have to stop him. That's just Batman, you know. He's paranoid, delusional. Like, as long as it's not a cartoon-style Link from back in the day, excuse me, princess. Oh, yeah, well, I mean, obviously not. Zelda on the Philips CDI was terrible, worse than the Zelda TV show. Most things in the CDI look terrible. Yeah, that's true, they did. I didn't think it was a Transformers game until the title came up. Same people made... Yeah, that's it. They made the Gears Tactics games, didn't they? But they've said it's not going to be like a tactics game, which is good because you know, we've had those sort of real-time strategy Transformers games, and I'm done with that. Like, I just want a third-person action game. But you know, like Street Fighter 6 looked amazing, Tekken 8 looked amazing. What else did we get to see? Death Stranding 2, my boy Kojima. Like, I don't know if you can see it up there, but like I've got all my like MGS figures up there. Like, you know, anything that Kojima does, like, is just great as far as I'm concerned. So like Death Stranding 2, I'm ready to go for another walk. Let's do it. Though it'll be interesting because you know, if you've ever followed like Kojima's work, he plays with things in very unique ways, so I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if Death Stranding 2 isn't actually a walking simulator anymore. But we'll have to wait and see. Also, as well, like, weird robotic Troy Baker with a guitar. Okay, like, that's a bit weird, but yeah. Show us the doggy. The doggy's gone. Armored Core, yeah. Like, what? It's been 10 years since the last Armored Core game? We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But yes, do you think we will get a Metal Gear Solid remake on the PS5? I really do hope we do. I mean, that's it, right? That's what we want. So here's the thing. And I think it's in development somewhere. I think there's been too many rumors and speculation about them doing a Metal Gear Solid and a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake and stuff like that. That it has to be true, and especially with Konami, you know, digging their heels in on Silent Hill. You know, there's a reason that Silent Hill disappeared as a franchise. And when I say disappeared, I don't mean that it vanished completely, because it didn't. but it just got palmed off to a bunch of developers who, look, I'm just gonna say this now, right? Even now, I think people fundamentally get, well, the fact that we're getting a Silent Hill 2 remake tells us that they still haven't learned their lesson in regards to Silent Hill. Silent Hill 2 is an incredible game. It is also not what Silent Hill really was about. The first couple of Silent Hill games, you know, the original 3 that were created by Team Silent. If you look at those 3 games and you look at the stories of those 3 games, Silent Hill 2 is a side story. The only problem is, it's a side story that became so popular that everybody now has a preconceived idea of what Silent Hill is about, and that's the problem. Anyway, that's besides the point. You were asking about Metal Gear Solid. God, I hate my brain sometimes. I have to believe that Metal Gear Solid is in development purely because if they're doing Silent Hill, they've got to be doing Metal Gear Solid, because Metal Gear Solid is a more prolific and higher grossing franchise than Silent Hill. So it makes sense. I think obviously the reason that we didn't see anything about it at the Game Awards is because Kojima was there and that would be really awkward. Here's my problem, however, with it. Metal Gear Solid is not a long game. If you strip out all of the cutscenes, which is basically the reason why you play Metal Gear Solid, but let's assume that you strip it out. There is, what, 90 minutes? 2 hours worth of gameplay in there? Possibly. I don't know what the current speedrunning record is for, like, non-glitched speedruns or whatever it is, but I imagine it's not far off there. And I don't know whether or not your value proposition of 70, you know, assuming that it was made. The other thing is as well, Metal Gear, you got to remember, Metal Gear Solid has been remade when it was remade on the GameCube as the Twin Snakes, and by modernizing Metal Gear Solid, they broke the game. And I'm not talking about the silly cutscenes that they put in where Snake is springboarding off a missile to fire a rocket launcher. What I mean is that, like, by giving you access to first-person mode, because of the level structure and the way it was built, you're basically not under really any threat whatsoever in that game. You've got to be really dumb in Twin Snakes to get caught out. Whereas with the original, because of the limitations that you had, and because of the limitations of the game, it worked out better. I think that there has to be a Metal Gear Solid game in development, but I just don't know what it looks like. Like, is it just Metal Gear Solid, the original, with the same viewpoint and the same controls and all, well, I mean, modernized controls, but like the same gameplay features, just visually upgraded, and so that it looks like a game that came out today? But if that game came out today, that's an indie title. That's a $20 game, or $25 or $30. I don't know. I think ideally what you do is you bundle Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 together, and you give them all a giant paint job. Metal Gear Solid 4 needs to be ported somewhere because they need to get it off the PlayStation 3. I mean, there's a reason that my PlayStation 3 is still set up, and that is purely because every year when I go through my Metal Gear Solid meal, where I play through the entire series, I need that there for Metal Gear Solid 4, and we need to get it off the PlayStation 3. But yes, sorry, I do apologize. Like, but yeah, it's all my Metal Gear for you guys. I can hear the Metal Gear Solid score in my head as soon as the game was mentioned. I may have to replay the game now. I mean, always have it handy. And there's Rex. I can't wait for them to do the Metal Gear Solid 2 soundtrack, because that to me is, I mean, the Metal Gear Solid 2 soundtrack is just one of the best video game scores, best scores of all time. What games you looking forward to next year? I think I mentioned them. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Street Fighter 6. I assume Tekken 8 is coming out next year. Though I probably won't bother with Tekken 8, to be honest. But Street Fighter 6, I guess... Oh, Resident Evil 4 Remake, obviously. Things like that. Yeah, so what's that? Resident Evil 4 Remake is like March 24th, my wedding day, ironically. But I'll be down in Manchester for the TF Nation convention. So, like, I'm going to be, like, absolutely, like, screaming, because I'll just be like, it's my wedding anniversary, I'm at a Transformers convention, but I want to be locked in a room playing a video game. Curses! Damn it! It is what it is. But yeah, and then like Street Fighter's in June. And we won't get Death Stranding next year, but you know, one could hope, I guess. I find myself less and less... Oh, Spider-Man 2 is due out next year, apparently, as well, the Insomniac one. I really want that. You know what I want as well? Like... Okay, so spoilers if you've not played the Spider-Man Insomniac games. I'm about to spoil it here, but they're a year or two old at this point. So, we saw in the trailer, obviously you got Spider-Man and Miles, and they're obviously introducing Venom in the game. Now, if you finish the games, you will know that the symbiote is in a tube with Harry Osborn, who is ill, and the idea, I guess, is that, well, they don't come out and say it, but my assumption is that the illness that Harry had in the game is cancer, and we know for a fact, well, I say we know for a fact, we know in the comics that the symbiote, like, eats cancer. Like, so my guess is, like, the reason he's in the tube with the symbiote is because they're, like, trying to cure his cancer and all of that stuff. So the insinuation, I guess, would be that Harry is actually going to be Venom because he's in the tube with the Venom symbiote. But I don't want that. I want Miles to get the Venom symbiote rather than Peter. Like, if they do the whole, like, Spider-Man thing, I want to see Miles get it because it would be different. That's what I would do anyway. What games you looking forward to next year? Yeah. Who would you cast as Snake in a live action movie and some of the bosses for fun? Oh man. Oh, I don't know. I hate these questions because I don't know actors very well. Because they have cast somebody as Solid Snake, but that Metal Gear Solid movie is never going to get made. Like, it's just never going to get made. You just can't make a live-action Metal Gear Solid movie and make it and have it be popular without it completely undermining what Metal Gear Solid is. Because Metal Gear Solid is stupid. Like, genuinely stupid. You know, it's so anime. But yeah, who would I cast? I don't know. Like, if this had been like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I always thought that I would have Gene Hackman as Colonel Campbell. I don't know why. I just always assumed he would be like a perfect choice. Who else? Who else would I cast like in a random role? I honestly don't know. I really do struggle with like who, because in terms of actors, I really don't know. Looking forward to Starfield. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But obviously it's Xbox exclusive, isn't it? And then PC, I suppose. So I can get it on the PC. Anyway, I saw that Pacino showed up at the Game Awards, but I don't know why I feel... Why? What, like, happened? Like, Al Pacino is, like, one of my all-time favorite actors. Like, why did you feel sorry for him? What, because he was at the Game Awards? Like, I don't know. Yeah, like, Metal Gear Solid is inherently... Here is why I love Metal Gear Solid. Right? Because on one hand, it can be ridiculous. There is an old man in a forest that you have to snipe to death, and when he blows up, his false teeth go flying. On the other hand, you have an emotional farewell to your mentor who you've just murdered in cold blood because she is so patriotic that she is prepared to die for her beliefs. And then you can also balance it with Kojima making a prediction of a game that came out in But this is the thing that blows my mind, right? The world we live in right now, I'm about to get very philosophical for the last 5 minutes, right? And then I'm going to shoot. Because I've got to go pick my wife up shortly. We live... I know this sounds dumb, right? But we live in a post-9/11 world. And what I mean by that is that, yes, of course 9/11 happened, but... the world that we live in has been entirely shaped by that singular event. No event in the last 21 years has done more to shape the society in which we live. The world would be a very, very different place, I feel, if that had not happened. And so I think to be able to identify and sort of assume what the world is going to be like without that context, it would be a very, very difficult one. And the very fact that Metal Gear Solid, the end of Metal Gear Solid 2 is so spot on to the way society is today. And bearing in mind that that script was written in, what, 1999? 2000? No, it had to be 1999. The fact that that script was written back then, and that last codec call from the Patriot AI is so honest in regards to what the world is like, what society is like now in 2022, is terrifyingly brilliant. And I think that is one of the reasons that I will always maintain Kojima and his team, because I always hate saying Kojima because video games are not made by one person. But that is so spot on. It's genuinely terrifying. Like, and as we move on as a species, and especially as we see the, I'm going to say it, I think the damage that social media is doing to us as a species, Metal Gear Solid 2 just becomes even greater in my mind as a piece of fiction. It's truly, it's truly one of the great pieces of postmodernist fiction. Like, it really is. And it has a vampire and a fat man on roller skates. And it balances all of that. You know? It has a man, it has an explosives expert on roller skates who is named after a bomb that was dropped on Fat Man and Little Boy. Fat Man was Hiroshima, wasn't it? And Little Boy was Nagasaki. Yeah. Who is named after an atomic bomb. Who just wants to be famous and has beautiful hands. Like, you know, you say all of this and it sounds ridiculous. But then, you know, if you've never played the game before, do yourself a favor and just Google Metal Gear Solid 2 predicts the future. And listen to that 15-minute codec conversation. Where, and if you don't see it now, like, then you're not on the internet, basically. It's terrifying. It really is. No, he couldn't read his lines. He said he didn't know anything about games. He was rambling about stuff. People were saying he was drunk, but seemed confused. Oh, man. That's real. I don't want to watch it now, then. That is a shame. Like, Pacino is a hero of mine. Like, he's one of the great actors of our generation. Shouldn't be there if that's going to be the case. But yeah, I don't understand why. I don't understand why people drag actors to Game Awards and stuff. I get it. It's they want publicity. Al Pacino was at the Game Awards. Yeah, nobody cares. Too right, social media has damaged us. I was a family wedding a few weeks ago, and the amount of people just playing on their phones at the reception was staggering. Yeah, it is. It's horrible. It's the great mousetrap, you know. And I'm not gonna, like, to an extent, this is social media. This is me being social, and you know, bless you lot have spent the last hour and a bit listening to me ramble. You know, like, this is almost as close to a one-way conversation as you can get. You know, it's so I can understand the fact that we are all part of the machine now. You know, but it's terrifying, because as the closing of that game says, oh, what is it? What is it? The AI says, it will only serve to slow down human evolution and, like, delay social progress, because everybody effectively retreats into their own little bubble, their own little collective where they feel safe, because everybody's afraid of the larger forum. And that's the reality that we live in, you know. And we all do it. We all do it, because I think, you know, deep down, a lot of us are just afraid of, like, what the world is really like, and who can blame you? You know, like, that's the entire point. Like, I think a lot of people make a lot of money from keeping people terrified and afraid of what's going to happen. How are you going to pay for your heating bill this year? How are you going to, like, make sure you've got food on the table? Like, keep them working, keep them terrified, like, keep people quiet, you know. That's a bit of a bummer note to end on, isn't it? But he was right, and he wrote that 20 years ago. I will have to dash. Thanks for the conversation. Enjoy the evening. Yes, what did you think of the Rise of the Beasts trailer? I thought it was alright. Like, it's another Transformers movie at this point. I didn't really have a great deal of thought on it, to be honest. Like, I will end with this, because it's a bit more of a positive note than the fact that society is going to hell in a handbasket. Beast Wars is a very, very hard nut to crack because it was done perfectly back in 1996. I always have reservations whenever somebody tries to resurrect Beast Wars because it's never done particularly well. And I have no faith in the Beast Wars characters being served particularly well in this movie either. And also, just reboot the goddamn thing. Just start from scratch. That said, the faces look cool. So, yeah. I don't know. Like, they've been sitting on this movie for a year now. So hopefully it's really good. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Right. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you being here with me this evening. Take care of yourselves. I will see you all, no doubt, after Christmas at some point. And yeah. Right. I'm off. Take care. Bye-bye. See you later.